must have been an extremely difficult decision by you and your team to first delay Cannes Lions and then to cancel it altogether for October. Just fill us in a little bit on the decision making there.
Yes, I mean, we were fortunate enough to get some information from some advisors at the World Health Organization. So quite early on, we realized that the June event was very unlikely to take place. And we did postpone it really quite early, much earlier than many other events, much earlier than the film festival. Postponed it to October. And then really what happened was that when we were looking towards October, if you think about what the festival really rests on, it rests on the winners of the Lions. That's ultimately the bedrock of the whole festival. That's what makes the event so special. And what the big agency groups who enter the Lions were telling us was, in the midst of the crisis, they didn't have the time or the focus to create the work, not to create the work, but to create the entries, which is a different thing. So although obviously creativity doesn't stop and agencies are still doing amazing work for their clients, the feedback very strongly to us was, we haven't got the time to spend that's needed to make the entries and to enter the Lions. So we had an early warning system, I suppose. We could tell that in October the event was not going to be what it should be with those Lions. And so we made the call really early, just to stop the speculation as well, and just so people could concentrate on other things which we know they've got to concentrate on.
I know your planning activities. Cannes Lions is always active to some degree around the year. Tell us sort of what this virtual Cannes Lions might look like, and some early planning and what we could expect, perhaps.
So having made the decision to cancel the event, we then needed to, of course, think about how to provide as much as we possibly can to the audience of the event itself. Now, I think one thing we wanted to be clear about right from the beginning was that we're not trying to create a virtual Cannes Lions. And I do think that event organizers need to be careful about framing their digital activities as if it's a virtual equivalent, because really, frankly, that's kind of impossible, really, if you think about what an event does for people, particularly when it comes to meeting, the serendipity meetings that people have, the walking into a speech that you weren't really planning to walk into, and it turns out to be the best thing you've ever seen, or in Cannes Lions' case, going down into the basement of the Palais and just looking at the work and seeing something that really is going to change your outlook. Those are very hard, those things, to replicate online. So what we didn't want to do is say, we're going to put the festival online, because we're not going to put the festival online. You can't do that. What we want to do is try to fulfill as many of those needs that people have in a slightly different way. And I suppose we're splitting them down into particularly a learning environment. So we're going to be providing masterclasses and segments of teach-ins and courses that we're going to be giving away. We want to provide as many of the speeches that we're going to be at Cannes as we possibly can do. So there will be some of the speeches. We want to inspire people, which again is what people have when they come to the festival. So we're going to be highlighting some of the great work that's currently taking place. It won't be lion-winning work, but it'll be work that is currently taking place around the COVID-19 crisis. And we want to try and bring people together. And I suppose that's the bit that's the hardest to do, to bring people together in a virtual environment and to allow them to network. And that's something that we're really thinking very hard about.
Beyond this decision to cancel Cannes, it leaves a hole, of course, in our industry in terms of meeting, but also doing business and networking. And how do you see sort of the industry getting through this period without Cannes and without really meeting? And what do you hope we see on the other side of it?
Well, there's two parts to that question. I mean, funnily enough, I had a meeting just now with an organization who shall remain nameless, but is probably very well known to all of the people watching this. And they weren't complaining, but they were saying, the hole that it has left in their revenue stream by not being at Cannes is really significant. These people build a business around the festival, and there are a lot of companies that do that. lot of organizations that do that. Now, everybody's got to find their own way through. Everybody's going to find a way to do the things they do at Cannes, the business development they do, the talking to the clients, the talent acquisition that the people do at Cannes. There are many, many, many elements to the festival that people don't think about until it's not there. And I suppose each of those organizations have to find their own way through, just in the same way as we have. And in terms of coming out of the other side, I do think that what it has allowed us to do, I was talking to a marketer, a global marketer, only yesterday in the automotive space. And what she was saying was that previously she has had so much pressure put on her to create work that is driving sales and driving people into the showrooms. And what this crisis has allowed her to do is take a step back and create real brand work, really meaningful brand work for the first time, she felt, for the first time for her brand. So the unforeseen consequence of us having to cancel the festival is that we can spend a lot of time and energy thinking about the digital offering and the online offering. The future of Cannes Lions, I think, in common with many events around the world, will be a blend of both those things. We have had a digital pass available for Cannes Lions for 3 years now. It's just not particularly well known, and I think we will develop that, and that'll become a famous part of the festival, I think. So ultimately, it'll be blended. People will be able to experience events like Cannes both physically and digitally, and that's certainly something that we're working on.